There is a precise moment when exercising your incentive stock options becomes a wealth-building move that can change your financial trajectory, and a precise moment when exercising them becomes a catastrophic tax mistake. Most employees don't know the difference, and many only discover it years later when they realize they either missed the lowest cost moment to exercise or accidentally triggered a massive AMT bill. I'm going to walk you through the exact moments smart employees exercise their ISOs across the 3 most common real-world scenarios. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which scenario you're in and what your optimal moment looks like. ISO advice is notoriously confusing. You'll hear people say to exercise early, to never exercise until the IPO, to avoid AMT, or that exercising causes AMT. None of these statements are universally true. The correct timing depends on several factors: your 409A valuation, your strike price, your AMT exposure, your company stage, and your personal cash situation. That's why breaking ISO timing into 3 simple and accurate scenarios is the clearest way to understand when exercising actually makes sense. The 3 scenarios are early stage with a low valuation, mid stage with a rising valuation, late stage when a liquidity event is becoming likely. Nearly every employee with ISO fits into one of these situations. So let's start with the scenario where the upside is enormous and the cost is often shockingly low. Scenario 1, early stage startup. This is the scenario where exercising ISOs can be incredibly powerful and surprisingly inexpensive. You're in this category if you joined your company at the seed, Series A, or early Series B stage, and your strike price is low and your current 409A valuation is still modest. In this situation, the spread between your strike price and the 409A valuation is small, and that spread determines both your tax exposure and how much it costs to buy your shares. The exact moment to exercise in scenario 1 is as early as possible, before the 409A begins rising meaningfully. When the 409A is close to your strike price, the AMT impact is minimal. That allows you to exercise many shares at a very low tax cost. You also start the long-term capital gains clock early and lock in a low-cost basis. But early does not always mean immediately. It means before a valuation increase. Funding rounds, major launches, or revenue announcements can all cause the 409A to spike. Once that happens, exercising becomes more expensive. At the same time, exercising early only makes sense if the company's financial health and long-term prospects are strong. If the company is struggling, the risk of losing the money you spend on the exercise becomes real. But what if your company isn't early stage anymore and the valuation has already climbed? That's where things start getting a little tricky. Scenario 2, mid-stage growth. This is the scenario where employees make the most avoidable mistakes. You're here if your company is in its Series B, C, or D stages. The 409A has risen far above your strike price. The cost to exercise is meaningful, and the company appears to be progressing steadily. The spread between your strike and the 409A may now be large enough to create significant AMT exposure. Because of that, most people either wait too long or exercise everything all at once. Both tend to create a massive, unnecessary taxable event. The exact moment to exercise in scenario 2 is when the 409A is increasing gradually, not during a major spike, and when your AMT can be managed by exercising in stages. Staged exercising spreads out your tax exposure, lets you start long-term capital gains on a portion of your shares, and helps you avoid exercising everything at the highest valuation. The danger in this scenario is waiting until a funding round. Once a new round closes, the 409A almost always increases. The AMT spread widens, exercising becomes dramatically more expensive. The ideal time is before major announcements, before valuation resets, and before investors push the company into a higher priced round. And this becomes even more important as your company approaches the moment everyone is waiting for, an IPO or acquisition. Before we move into scenario 3, which is where employees lose the most money and make the most painful mistakes, I want to give you something that makes all of this easier to understand. I wrote a free book, titled Take Charge of Your Equity Comp. It walks you through AMT, timing decisions, valuation changes, and the key mistakes to avoid. If you want clarity around your ISOs without guessing, download the book using the link below. Scenario 3, late stage or pre-liquidity. This is the scenario where timing matters the most. You're here if your company appears to be preparing for an IPO, if bankers are involved, if leadership is publicly discussing liquidity, or if acquisition rumors are circulating. The biggest mistake employees make in this phase is waiting until the exit to exercise. When you exercise at the IPO or acquisition, you give up long-term capital gains treatment entirely. You often pay taxes at the highest possible income rate. You may owe taxes based on peak valuation. And if the stock declines after listing, you gain nothing from the higher taxes you just paid. The exact moment to exercise in scenario 3 is 12 to 18 months before the likely liquidity event. This lets you qualify for long-term capital gains, exercise before the valuation peaks, and retain flexibility if the IPO or acquisition is delayed. You should exercise in this window if the company's prospects look strong, leadership has laid out a clear roadmap to liquidity, and your personal financial situation supports it. But if the company is volatile, facing layoffs, or experiencing inconsistent growth, exercising too close to an uncertain liquidity event can expose you to unnecessary risk. So how do you know which scenario you're actually in? That's where most people get stuck. Scenario 1 means you are early stage, and exercising early makes sense. Scenario 2 means the valuation is rising and exercising strategically in stages is your best move. Scenario 3 means liquidity is ahead, and exercising 12 to 18 months beforehand typically produces the best long-term tax outcome. Once you understand your scenario, the timing becomes much clearer. And once you have clarity on timing, the next step is making sure you take action confidently, not reactively. If this video helped you understand when to exercise your ISOs, you'll find even more clarity in my free book, Take Charge of Your Equity Comp. You can download it using the link below. For more videos on stock options, AMT strategies, and building wealth through equity, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.